What's up guys, Khraze here, and in today's video we'll cover everything you need to know about the Waking Titan project. If you've been a fan for No Man's Sky for some time, you've probably heard about Waking Titan at some point. Even on this channel it was referenced a number of times, and since it's so close to its grand finale, I've decided this might be the best time to cover everything you need to know about it. So without further ado, I do hope you all sit comfy in your chairs and let's get started. First of all, many of you are probably asking yourselves right now, what is even Waking Titan? The simple answer to that is that it's an alternate reality game, or short for ARG. While there's a great deal of debate about what an alternate reality game should be defined as, it's basically a type of multimedia game for multiple players that takes place in real time and evolves according to the decisions made by those players. It's essentially a way of delivering a story narrative that exists in the real world by the use of various mediums such as websites, emails, phones, and so on. Hence why it's even called a multimedia game or transmedia, as it tends to happen across multiple platforms. Behind this game there lies a puppet master or a mastermind. This can be an individual or a group of individuals who are designing and running the story through a series of puzzles and obscure messages. The community of players then have to solve these puzzles using all the hints and pieces of information they get through the ARG to advance the story further. Of course, the story itself, as I've said, can be altered by the player's decisions, and this was obvious in our very own ARG as well. In our case, the puppet masters are Hello Games themselves and the company they employ called Alice & Smith, who has over a decade of experience in very advanced alternate reality games. We, the community of No Man's Sky, are also known as the Citizen Science Division, and our common effort is what's driving the story narrative. Making connections and solving puzzles is what is advancing the ARG, and as you've probably noticed, we typically get rewarded with various feature hints and reveals at the end of them. The Waking Titan project was first ever used in the months leading to the release of the Alice Rises update back in the summer of 2017. The first ever hint towards the ARG came from a Twitter account with a link that pointed towards the project-wt.com website. Soon after that, moderators of the No Man's Sky main subreddits began receiving cassette tapes in their mails labeled from 1 to 16. In the beginning of the ARG, it wasn't yet clear if Waking Titan was even connected to No Man's Sky, as there were only slight hints and bits and pieces of information. A couple of months in the first ARG, towards the end of phase 1, the connection to No Man's Sky was finally made with a PDF file that contained a message from Sean Murray. Up until today, Waking Titan had 4 phases throughout 2 seasons, 3 of them leading up to Alice Rises last year, and the 4th and current one is leading up to the next update. I will not go over all the puzzles present throughout the existence of Waking Titan, as that would take a massive amount of time, but I will provide a link towards everything that has been posted on the official wiki, where you can read everything about it. What I will do though is extracting all the information given and compile it in a continuous story for everybody here to more easily understand. According to the Waking Titan wiki, the story in the ARG follows a powerful AI called Loop 16, which was created by a company called the Alice Foundation in order to simulate a one-to-one recreation of our reality that can accurately predict the future. The name Loop 16 most probably comes from the fact that it's the 16th iteration of an artificial intelligence program created by the company. The CEO of Alice Foundation up until recently was Elizabeth Layton, or Lighton, who has been communicating extensively with the CSD members via video message. I'm sure that many of you have already seen some of those videos. She was also the director of the Citizen Science Division and is currently believed to be dead following an incident that happened at one Myriad sublocation a couple of months back. As of now, she's been replaced as a CEO following her presumed death by Sophie Dubois. As previously mentioned, the Citizen Science Division is composed out of No Man's Sky fans and other people who volunteered to be part of the project. In the lore of the ARG, CSD members were recruited by the Alice Foundation via a series of puzzles and radio ads with the purpose of gathering a collective of individuals who could generate a chaotic enough environment viable to test Loop 16's predictive capabilities. Eventually, the AI created by the Alice Foundation developed a mind of its own and began presenting itself to players as Emily Warren. Emily, aka Loop 16, was initially introduced to players through the Edison Township Amateur Radio Club Forum, short for ETARC or ETARC, where she or it It acted as a moderator and a guide and generally encouraged collaboration between players. She also produced a series of vlogs which can still be found on her YouTube channel. The first time the connection between Emily and Loop 16 was ever made happened towards the end of Phase 2 when a Turing test was administered to the AI. For those who don't know what a Turing test is, it's basically a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human being. Basically, if the machine is capable enough of looking and sounding like a real human, then it pretty much passes the test. In that particular test, Loop 16 appears to answer to the name of Emily, which is the first time that the connection between Loop 16 and Emily was ever made, and it was the first hint that we ever gotten that Emily and Loop 16 is actually one and the same. There was also a memo released in Phase 3 of the Waking Titan ARG that referenced Loop 16 with a female pronoun, and it mentions that it quote-unquote knows how to look young and friendly. The final confirmation came from a chat log between Sophia Dubois and the AI in which Sophia calls it by the name of Emily, so that was probably the most definitive proof that we had in which a clear connection between those two entities was made. So basically, Emily is either Loop 16 or one of its personas. Now you might be asking yourselves, what's even the connection between Waking Titan's lore and the one in No Man's Sky? The short answer is that No Man's Sky universe comes into existence as a result of Loop 16's dreams. The Mercury process is the codename No Man's Sky often goes by in the ARG, and all the effects of the events taking place in Waking Titan can be felt as quote-unquote shockwaves through No Man's Sky updates, but the references to the ARG itself are rather limited in the game, and they can also act independently from one another. For example, the in-game reveal of the origins of the Atlas takes place in a vastly different timeline as opposed to that of Loop 16's. This has given birth to the simulation cascade theory, according to which many simulated realities exist into one another with progressive degradation and inaccuracy. Basically, this all revolves around the universe inside of another universe theory, or a simulation within a simulation, so to speak, except that each subsequent one gets more and more corrupted than the previous. In the lore of the Waking Titan, there are many companies that have partnered up with the Atlas Foundation. I'm sure that many of you heard of some of these, but I'm going to name a few, and those are Myriad, SATCOM, WearTech, as well as more such as Echo Software, Multiverse Technologies. I think there are a couple of more, but I'm only going to cover the first two as they make more sense, they are more relevant to these days, and of course they were mentioned much more often. Also, a lot of today's reveals are kinda connected to the first two companies, which is why I'm only going to name them. First of all, I'm going to start with Myriad, which is a satellite-based data storage company that has partnered with the Atlas Foundation to provide the necessary processing power required for the Foundation's experiments. SATCOM is Myriad's satellite communication API, and it is connected to the sacramented test subjects, who are also known as dreamers. I am sure that you have heard me talking about these dreamers before, but they are basically test subjects who are used by this Wear company in order to run a lot of experiments regarding their dreams and whatnot, and their consciousness is now currently stuck in a satellite. Eventually the program got corrupted, and Emily, aka the AI, aka Loop 16, worked hard to save as many dreamers as possible. When she was unable to extract the last dreamers due to immense degradation and data corruption, she reached us, the Citizen Science Division, for assistance. This is basically what we're trying to do even now, trying to save these dreamers by using the SATCOM 70 website, where interaction with them is possible. You can communicate with them via their dreams, their stats and whatnot. The goal here is to trigger the correct memory block through conversations with them, and this is basically the key in helping them to escape the simulation. They are trapped over there, and triggering the correct memory will give them the possibility to escape that simulation. In essence, if the correct memory is not found, they will not be able to escape the simulation, and many of the dreamers have died in this process. You might have seen some exosuit PNG files related to these dreamers as well, on top of them being in-game feature hints towards the exosuit bundles that we might get in the next update. They also have a purpose in the lore itself. Basically, the physical exosuits that the dreamers wear have been developed with the intent of extracting the conscious experience of REM sleep without the need to sleep at all. It's some really intriguing stuff, really hard to get, and a lot of the details are eluding us right now. Basically, this is what an ARG means. There's a lot of rabbit holes, and the more you discover about the lore and everything, the more you realize that you actually actually know so little, and there's so much more to it. It's really complicated, it's really hard, but this is basically most of what we know right now. So we have these companies trying to run some experiments regarding the dreams, and they're using all sorts of technologies to get people and get their consciousness and upload all of that data in order to get something relevant out of that. The end result here is to make the AI so much better that it is able to not only create a one-on-one simulation of our real world, but also predict events. This is basically what they are trying to do. Of course, the means to an end are not always necessarily good. Some of them are obviously evil, and you will realize that as this video goes by. The Wear company is also connected to the Alice Foundation in the fact that it's a Myriad client. They're basically a company in China who specializes in creating VR headsets that allow users to enter virtual worlds within dreams. Emily has praised Wear in the past for their progress with the simulated environments and claims to have tremendous implications for our futures and that it is very important. It's been theorized that Wear are actually evil after one employee learned about some really dangerous experiments conducted on individuals. For example, in phase 2 there was a mention of dreamers from other facilities who died during attempts to disconnect them from the headsets or due to immoral practices. Despite Wear's attempts at covering their tracks, this information finally came to light, again from all of those memos and all of the leaks that happened, of course, in the lore. We also have the current dreamers who we're trying to save right now, and they are planned for extraction in like a couple of days. One of them is dead already, so yeah, things look kinda grim if you think about it. But now that we kinda have a backstory to what's happening with the ARG and the connection that it has to No Man's Sky, we can finally move on the current ongoing phase 4, which is leading up to the next update. Up until now, a lot of progress has been done and we're literally one reveal away from its completion. So here's a rundown of the main events that have happened in the current phase. On the 28th of December 2017, a new command was available on the Waking Titan website. Upon typing in who is in the console, the website would return the answer what is 1.5. This was the first time it was theorized that the upcoming update, unknown to us at that time, would be 1.5, which meant it skipped 1.4 following Atlas Rises, which was 1.3. Since the development took so much for the next update, it was kind of theorized that it contained 2 updates into one, hence the reason why it even skipped 1.4. Towards the end of March, the Myriad website went online once again after being offline since phase 3 in 2017. It was indicated that a solar event is interfering with the operations, and after a long series of clues and puzzles that pointed out towards a tweet from Sean Murray which contained a photo of someone, presumably himself, holding a photo, receiving a Telegram notification and the hashtag 11BST. 11BST was basically short for 11 AM British Standard Time. Roughly 30 minutes before that time, Sean announced on his Twitter that he had a small announcement to make. Shortly after that, the next update for No Man's Sky was officially announced by Hello Games on their website, as well as the launch date set for 24th of July, which is literally next week. In the beginning of May, users subscribed to the Wear mailing list started receiving news about the developer kit updates. Basically, 6 winners out of roughly 700 people won the development contest, and a few weeks after that they all started receiving packages containing a phone, a holographic pyramid and lots of clues relevant to the ARG. Nonetheless, these developer kits were used ever since then to connect to the SATCOM 70 website, which can also be done from any browser, but it is also used to receive messages from various ARG characters. As for the holographic pyramid, this was used for every time a new discovery was made, for example for the ringed planets, for the character models, as well as for the new ship type. The reason I'm even mentioning the dev kits is because they've played a rather huge role in uncovering more stuff and contains a lot of story of the ARG. Somewhere in the beginning of June last month, the value of status command began to update. Upon typing it on the Waking Titan website, the message referenced a Myriad field team being dispatched to a non-compliant Sacramento facility. A few more updates later, after the so-called field team breached the facility, a link towards a YouTube video was found and it was shown to contain 12 screens of what seems to be security cameras at various locations. In one of them, Elizabeth Lighton can be seen and heard insert talking about the incident, but soon afterwards the image cuts and an explosion is broadcast on another screen. Later on, a memo was produced and its contents referred to Sophia Dubois replacing Elizabeth as the head of the Alice Foundation, and that the 12 test subjects, aka the Dreamers, were to be disconnected and integrated into the SATCOM interface with the Wear assistance. On June 15th, the Dreamer section got updated, showing the names of 3 Dreamers at that time. Today we know that it would eventually be updated with 12 Dreamers. Each Dreamer section reveals an interface displaying a link to the patient's files, physical status, and memory fragments, along with the input fields for an activation code. As mentioned in the beginning of the video, Emily explained that the goal here is for each Dreamer to be interviewed within a specific simulated environment in order to find the activation code, which in turn would lead to them being able to be safely extracted from the Wear headsets. Later on, more and more Dreamers were being discovered and updated on the website up until 12 that we know today. As more Dreamers were being interviewed and more info was processed, each of the 6 elements on the site would be decrypted. Upon full decryption, each of these 6 elements would lead to certain files which contained a lot of important reveals regarding the No Man's Sky Next update. From 1 to 6 we had a hologram of ringed planets, a glitched exosuit schematic, a starship hologram, an in-game audio file, as well as the 5th element, a glitched audio file of some English speaker, which was talked about in the previous video. But this brings us to the last and final element 6, which has been decrypted like yesterday, and its content was a survey with 4 possible answers. Eventually the status command on the Waking Titan website also updated, showing the results of said survey with a staggering 67% vote for the video option. Many, including myself, think that this might refer to the fact that at the end of the ARG we are led to decide what type of content reveal we want to see. Of course, there were options for text, video, audio, and brainwaves. The vast majority of people, it seems, they have picked video option, which kind of makes sense. So everybody is now expecting either a trailer or in-game video footage. The status command also points towards an active stream on the Waking Titan Twitch channel, which currently displays a timer that is set to finish somewhere around tomorrow afternoon in my region. While the stream was happening, it started displaying slideshows in intervals of 60 minutes depicting each Dreamer's profile. Each one of them had certain letters and numbers being highlighted, and arranging them all would form a link towards another audio file from Emily, to which I'll post a link in the description box. Last but not least, a recent email from the Old Gods informs us about the date of 20th of July being the date of the extraction. This is basically like 3 or 4 days from now, depending on your time zone, and this is when we're finally going to get some info. So now we have the stream going on, which shows a 1 more day cooldown on it, and there's the 20th of July, which is another 4 days from now. So I'm not sure what type of information this is going to be, but nonetheless, this was the rundown of the entire Waking Titan ARG. Of course, I have skipped a lot of puzzles because there's simply not enough time in one video to cover everything. It would probably take me hours to explain everything. Of course, I don't know everything myself. I know the vast majority of them. I've been there, I've took part in them. So yeah, this pretty much sums up the more important events in the Waking Titan ARG. Its conclusion will come either tomorrow or on the 20th, but just like I've mentioned in the previous video, this is essentially the end of phase 4, and there's nothing left after this except for the update itself. No matter what the reveal will be about, I'm more than surely going to cover it. We'll do the same with the patch notes and the trailer if they drop, unless of course they are the very things revealed at the end of the Waking Titan. But if you've enjoyed this video, a like and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Don't forget to add me on Twitter, on Instagram, links in the description box below, and I will see you guys in the next video.